Okay, welcome to the training video for how to set up a budget model from scratch for Matrix. The budget model shell would usually be saved on the server under Financial Management Services and then Budget Models Development. I've just got it saved on my desktop here, so I'll just open it up now. The most recent one is called Client Master Budget Shell Final May 2010. Okay. Now, if you've enabled macros, you should get this main menu pop up when you first open the budget model. If it doesn't pop up, then you'll need to adjust your security settings. To do this, go to the File menu and then Options. It should be in Trust Center and then Trust Center Settings. And then macro settings. You'll need to select enable all macros. It does say not recommended, but this model won't run without enabling macros. Click OK. And then just go back to your home page. Now what you first want to do is have a look at the instructions page. If you ever get lost, this instructions page should be able to guide you through the setup without looking at this video, but I will take you through step by step. It's assumed for this video that you've already downloaded a jobs list or cost center list from either MYOB or Cloud or whichever accounting software you're using, as well as a chart of accounts. I won't go through that step of the process because it's assumed that you do know that. If you go to the main page, first of all you should update the client name. That's in cell A11 there. You'll notice that everything updates automatically. That's because we've got manual auto calculation on. It's a good idea to turn your calculation to manual at this stage, only because if you're running on quite a slow processor, it may take quite a while to update each time you change something. In the variables page, you'll also want to change the financial year. You don't really need to change anything else right now, as long as the the organization runs on a regular tax year. If it doesn't, obviously you'll need to change this from January to December. You'll also need to change the first month to January. There's just a little drop down there. Now what you'll need to do is go to your sample chart of accounts and jobs, and first we'll set up the jobs list or cost center list. The job numbers and job names should both be copied over. Just hitting Control-C there is the shortcut to copy, and then it should be copied into the the page called Jobs List. You'll need to copy it into columns B and C. Columns E and F are formula driven, so don't copy it into those. What you'll also need to do is delete any other rows that are that are unused below your jobs list. I'm just moving that formula up there because when I delete these, it's going to delete that if I left it in that row. Leave this cell here that says last row for jobs list. That's how the macro knows to stop when it gets to the end. Don't worry too much about the formatting on this page. The client won't see it. It's only for our own use in setting it up. And just save the file as you go as well. You can see now that I've saved it. These formulas have updated because we've got it on manual calculate, but it will save each time. It'll recalculate each time the file's saved. Okay. What you now want to do is move to your base sheet. This is where we're going to set up the chart of accounts as you want to see each budget page or each budget sheet. So we'll go back to the chart of accounts that I've already downloaded. Here are my income accounts. I'm just going to copy them across into this column B and C here. I'm just taking a note of how many I'm copying across here. I might have to insert a few lines before I copy them. It's a good idea just to insert above the bottom of the page here rather than to go to carry down the accounts below this net surplus deficit line. The setup macro can often malfunction if you don't insert the lines above the existing space. So I'm just going to insert within it right now. I think that should give me enough. That format hasn't come across properly, so I'm just going to try again to space the whole thing this time. There we go. It's fine to delete rows at this stage in here. It won't make any difference to how the model works. Now in column A of the base sheet, you also need to mark whether the accounts are header accounts, such as this one, which means that they won't allow any input as a budget line, or whether they're detail accounts, which will allow input, or a total row here that will obviously sum. The formatting of the sheet you don't have to worry about right now because we'll set up the format later on when we've got all the accounts in there. I'm just taking a note of how many rows I've got here and how many I might need. Just for our purposes, I might just keep it a bit smaller to demonstrate it's a little bit easier. I'm just going to delete these unused lines here. Okay, and just checking that all of my account types are correct in column A. If you have any lines that you'd like to keep as is, just mark them as headers. Sometimes it's nice to have blank lines in between there, just like this one. And the last thing to check on this base sheet is that no values, no formulas or anything are existing in here. So all I'm going to do is highlight the yellow range, which is going to be the input cells here. I'm just going to delete everything that might be in there. Now these total income and total expense lines you'll have to set up as a formula yourself. It's just a simple sum formula. So equals sum, and then just select the range that it'll need to add. I'm just going to copy that across. It shouldn't really matter about the formatting right now. I know this looks ugly, but again, we'll fix that soon. I'm also just going to check that the formulas in this column D should be totals. You can see there that a few are missing. That's because I inserted lines. I'm just going to copy that formula down again. Okay. Now when you're ready, you can click this Setup Format macro and it should make everything look pretty for you. Okay, now you can see in this instance it's run beyond the space that it's got there. I'm just going to quickly undo that. Okay. And just making sure that your formulas are still there that you've written in, they look fine. Okay. There we go. Now what you want to do with this base sheet is make it look exactly like you want your job pages or your cost center pages to look, because this sheet is going to get replicated. for each job that appears in this job list. So on your base page, once you've got everything looking exactly how you'd like to see all the other job pages, what you'll need to do is go back to the jobs list page, and in order to enable your salaries formulas to be pulled through automatically, you'll need to copy this formula into your salaries row. So again, I'm just hitting Control-C, back to my base page. I'm going to look for a salaries account. Obviously, I haven't brought it over. I'm just going to make this one salaries, and this one can be superannuation. So in this salaries row, I'm just going to paste the formats. Oh, lost that copy. I'm just going to paste, sorry, the formulas in there, and I'm just going to make it have no fill, because yellow cells are input cells on this in this model. So just to keep that as a standard. You might find that with superannuation, and also maybe with expense items like workers' compensation or annual leave provision, you might want to make it formula driven based on the salaries. All I'll do is make superannuation a formula of the salaries row. So I'm just going to go equals that salaries row times, in my variables page, I've got a superannuation rate in there already. As you can see, I mean, you can put really anything in that variables page. It just helps to hold it as a standard, and it helps with scenario planning. So if your workers' comp premiums were to come up, were to be pushed up, you just have to change this 1% in there and everything else will update. I'm going to make that an absolute reference. So to do that, I'm just hitting F4. What that does is, as I carry the formula across, it'll make sure that it keeps pointing at that specific cell on the variables page. Okay, I've also just made that cell, those cells white as well, so we know not to type over them. What I'm also going to do is make sure that those cells are protected. So if we go number formats here in protection, I'm just going to lock them, and that means that when we protect the sheets, that if the client's using it, they're not going to be able to write over those formulas that are in there. Okay, so I think I've got everything as I want now. What I'm going to do now is go back to the jobs list. I'm going to hit this button here, which will run the setup job macro. Fingers crossed. Okay, so what you can see has happened now is it's just replicated that base sheet for all the jobs that you have. Now you might say, well, what was the point of running the macro? Yes, you can do it manually. When you've got 4 jobs, that's fine. When you've got 150, that's probably going to get pretty tedious. So what it does, the macro does, is it replicates this base sheet. It renames the tab, as you can see, with the job number, and it also changes this cell up here, which is important for your salary referencing, as you can see here. Okay, so what you can do now is hide your base sheet. You don't need that anymore. And in your salaries and staff allocation page, or we can also hide this end sheet as well, your salaries and staff allocation pages, these should really automatically update. This is just some sample data that's in here. Your start month and end month and your increment month are all data validation cells, which means that you can only enter them from a certain list of values, and they're obviously the months in there. And that's pretty important because these formulas are calculated based on your increment months and your end months and start months. Your increment rate is a pay rise rate, and along with increment month, that can dictate at what point in the year a person gets a salary rise. This model's set up with a normal working week of 38 hours. If you did want to change that, all you need to do is, in these formulas that run across the months, you just need to change this number here and obviously recopy the formula across to that column Y there. Now, you don't really need to do anything with these 2 pages except for each client, before you give it to them, it's a good idea to update the pay periods. Now, obviously, if they're being paid fortnightly. Some months will have 3 fortnights, whereas others will have 2. If they're being paid monthly, you'll need to change all of them to 1, and you'll also need to change the working hours, standard working hours in here to whatever the hours would be in a monthly period. I think it's about 150 something. Okay, the staff allocation page looks similar. All you'll have to do here is once you've entered in those salaries, the employees, in the salaries page, they'll appear in this, again, this data validation drop down. The jobs will read from your jobs page. So you can see if you want to split someone between 2 or 3 or more cost centres, you just have to enter them multiple times. Obviously select the jobs that they're to be allocated to and the percentages, and it'll calculate the rest for you. If you get an error message here, it usually means you haven't allocated someone 100%, or someone's missing from the allocations page. It'll be reflected in here if they're not being allocated fully across jobs, or there might be another issue with carrying formulas down or anything like that. As you enter more people in to the sheet, you will need to copy these formulas down. You can see that they're not being copied all the way, so just copy them all the way across from here each time you enter someone new like that. I'm just going to get rid of them for now, otherwise we'll get error messages in there. Okay. Just save it regularly as well. Now this consolidation page is a total by month of all your jobs. Now you can see that this has been updated through that setup format macro, but obviously something's gone wrong here. All I would do is go back to one of these pages, which is going to look pretty much the same. Looks like it's all okay till there. Okay, so the postage charge and sale was the last one that was in there. This has obviously not quite worked. I'm just going to clean it up now. I'll just have a look at what my last expense item was there, and that's insurance. Just going to copy this format across to here. So as you can see, it's not really a big deal if the macro doesn't quite work. Everything that's in this sheet, all the functionality, can be performed manually anyway. Okay, it looks like there's just a few more changes to be made here. I'm just copying that format across to there. And that looks like we're pretty much done with that setup of the page. I'm just going to hide this column A again for aesthetics. And all you want to do here is just check that all the formulas have been calculated properly. So what it's doing here is there's a hidden start and end page. I'll just show you. It's a good idea to check that they're still in the right place. Your start and end page should really act as brackets around your job pages. So as long as they're in the right spot, there shouldn't be any other sheets like your salary sheet or anything before the end page. What the consolidation page is doing is totaling all of the sheets between those two sheets. You can see that with the formula there, and it's just being carried across the columns. So I'm just going to check and make sure that that formula has come down all the way. It's always a good idea if you're not confident about it to just paste the values, the formulas down again. And I'll just save it there. Okay, so I can see that something's not quite right here because we've got a surplus or a deficit, but nothing coming through here. I'll just see what's happening here. So obviously we've got some salaries pulling across because I did put those jobs into that staff allocation page. But they're obviously not pulling across here. And that's because these jobs pages are obviously set up from row 9 through to row 47 with the net surplus or deficit at row 50. So what's happened here is we're missing a few accounts by the looks of things. From 10 to 23 is our income accounts. Okay. There we go. I'm just going to copy this down again from here. Okay. And again, you just need to copy. Anytime you make any changes to the accounts, just copy that consolidation, the formulas in that consolidation page back down to the bottom row again. When I save it, it'll recalculate, and that looks more normal. Okay, so your consolidation page is pretty much done now. On the summary page, we'll need to do another setup function here. If you unhide column A, and then just make sure that these rows up here are unhidden as well. Sometimes they're hidden. You can see that it's had the same problem again, whatever that was with the macros. So I'm just going to insert a few rows here. We'll just make it the same as our consolidation in our job pages. Okay, and you will just have to make sure that these are copied down again because it does its own format setup. Okay. And that looks okay here. I'm just going to save it again. And when you're ready, just hit the setup macro. Okay. Now what it's done here is it's renamed, it's copied the right formatting down. So we've got bold in the right areas, we've got lines in the right areas, and it's renamed these four columns here. This is just a drop down again. You can do it yourself manually if anything goes wrong. Now what it hasn't done is it hasn't deleted these superfluous columns that were from the last client. So I'm just going to delete them manually now. I'll just hide that filter for now. We'll come back to that a bit later on. And I'm just going to save it again so it recalculates. Now hopefully everything's okay this time. Okay, now you can see that we've still got an issue here. I'm just going to copy this formula down from this line just to make sure it's all worked properly. Okay, that looks like it's all come through fine now. I'm just going to hide these few lines and also hide column A. Okay. Now you can change the format, you can change the layout of this page as much as you like. All you'll have to do is make sure that these formulas in here are preserved. Okay. Now in terms of functionality, this file is pretty much ready to go now. That's all there really is to it. I'll just show you one other function though in the file, and something that's quite helpful sometimes when you've got a lot of unused accounts is to have this filter set up to work. So what's happening now is we're getting a reference error for some reason. It's probably because some cell's been deleted. What I like to use is a formula that just says if all of these cells are equal to 0, that is, if none of them have a value in it, then make this autofilter 0, otherwise make it 1. So what you'll do is you'll get a range of 1s come through on here where the cells aren't blank, where the row's not blank. I'm just going to copy that down to the bottom. If I recalculate again, you can see that where there's a value now in these lines, it's put a 1 in there. So then if you were to filter here by 1s, you'll only see the rows that have anything in it. You can also add a manual filter onto rows that you always want to see. So obviously you're never going to want the total income line hidden, even if it's 0. And you'll probably want to keep these lines in there as well. Okay, if you filter it again. You can see that that's not copied down there, that formula. Take 3. Okay, and that's obviously a lot easier to print out for a client, or for a board or something like that. They don't want to see a whole bunch of blank lines. There we go. You can carry that through each page so that you don't have to redo any kind of formulas or anything again. I just copy the whole columns across. You can copy it into the consolidation page. You can also group these sheets, so from all your cost center sheets or your job sheets, just hold Shift down once you've selected the first sheet, and then select the last sheet, and that'll group the sheets so that what you do to one of them happens to all of them. I'm just going to do the same thing here. To ungroup them, just select another sheet and they'll be ungrouped immediately. So you can see now we've got a working filter on all of those pages, so it does help for printing. So what I'm going to do now is just hide the sheets that we're not using. The variables tab we're not using anymore. The instructions tab probably no client wants to see. And I'll just do one other thing before I hide the jobs list tab, and that's to protect all the job sheets. You can unprotect them in the same way. All this is doing is, if they're protected, a client won't be allowed to write over formulas or to change any cells that are locked. So they'll get that error message if they try to do that. I'm just going to hide that jobs list page now. Obviously it's not foolproof. If they know how to use Excel quite well, they can still hack into it, but it does help, I think, to deter them from breaking the model. Okay, so that should be all your sheets that are shown now. That's about all there is to it, but I will create another video, or there is another video to show you the troubleshooting on the budget model. Thanks very much.